Imagine a ghost town, abandoned and silent for 38 years where life stopped overnight. This isn't a horror movie set. It's Chernobyl, the site of one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. In 1986, a sudden explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant sent radioactive materials across Europe, leaving towns empty and lives forever changed. In this video, we'll look at the most shocking man-made disasters that still impact us today. From massive oil spills to industrial accidents, these serve as reminders of what can go wrong when safety and the environment are overlooked. First on the list is the Chernobyl disaster. April 26, 1986, marked a cataclysmic moment when reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Pripyat, Soviet Union, erupted in a massive explosion. What began as a routine safety test spiraled into the most infamous nuclear accident the world had ever seen. The combination of design flaws, inadequate training, and human error sent radioactive particles billowing across Europe, contaminating vast areas and rendering them uninhabitable for generations. The immediate aftermath claimed the lives of 2 plant workers, followed by 28 more who succumbed to acute radiation sickness within weeks. But the true extent of the disaster unfolded over time. Countless cases of thyroid cancer, leukemia, and other radiation-induced illnesses have been linked to the incident, impacting tens of thousands. The Chernobyl exclusion zone, a ghostly expanse reclaimed by nature but shadowed by radiation, serves as a haunting testament to human error and the risks of nuclear energy. Next, we visit Bhopal, India, and the gas tragedy of 1984. On the fateful night of December 2nd to 3rd, 1984, as the city of Bhopal slept, disaster struck at the Union Carbide pesticide plant. A sudden leak of methyl isocyanate gas and other toxic chemicals poured into the atmosphere, enveloping nearby neighborhoods. Within hours, the silent, invisible cloud killed thousands and left tens of thousands more gasping for air, their eyes and lungs seared by the poison. The human toll was immense. Over 15,000 people perished, while more than 500,000 suffered long-term health consequences, including chronic respiratory conditions, vision impairments, and severe neurological damage. The tragedy didn't end with the initial exposure. Generations born to survivors faced birth defects and congenital conditions. The Bhopal gas tragedy spotlighted the dangers of inadequate safety measures, corporate neglect, and poor regulatory oversight. The fight for justice continues, with survivors and advocates pushing for adequate compensation and holding Union Carbide's parent company accountable. This disaster underscored the urgent need for stringent industrial safety laws and corporate responsibility, especially in developing nations. Now picture the Great Smog of London, 1952, brought a crisis that would change urban policy forever. London, often shrouded in fog, faced an unprecedented environmental catastrophe when a lethal combination of cold weather, coal smoke, and stagnant air created a thick, yellowish smog that blanketed the city for 5 days. Visibility dropped to mere feet, disrupting transportation and daily life. The health impact was catastrophic. Hospital admissions surged, and an estimated 4,000 people died in the immediate aftermath, with the number of fatalities later revised to around 12,000. Thousands more suffered long-term respiratory illnesses. This disaster shocked the public and spurred swift action, leading to the Clean Air Act of 1956. The legislation aimed to reduce air pollution through stricter controls on coal burning and industrial emissions, marking a significant shift toward cleaner energy sources and public health protection. Minamata Disease, 1950s to 1960s, unveils another dark chapter, one tied to mercury poisoning in Japan. For over a decade, Chiso Corporation's chemical plant in Minamata discharged industrial wastewater laced with methyl mercury into Minamata Bay. This toxic compound accumulated in fish and shellfish, which were a staple of the local diet. By the time the connection between the factory's effluent and a mysterious, debilitating illness became clear, hundreds of people had succumbed to what would be known as Minamata Disease. Victims displayed symptoms ranging from muscle weakness and loss of motor control to paralysis and death. By the 1960s, over 2,000 deaths had been directly linked to the poisoning, with thousands more suffering long-term neurological damage. The company's attempts to downplay and deny responsibility only fueled outrage. Legal battles and protests eventually led to compensation and recognition of the victims, but the damage had been done. Minamata Disease stands as a chilling example of the human cost of environmental neglect and the critical need for responsible waste management and environmental protections. And then, there's the Fukushima nuclear disaster, 2011. Japan was rocked by a 9.0 magnitude earthquake, followed by a towering tsunami that swept over its northeastern coast. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, unable to withstand the sheer force of the natural calamities, suffered reactor meltdowns in 3 of its units. Radioactive material leaked into the atmosphere, contaminating land, water, and the lives of the over 150,000 people who were forced to evacuate. Although no immediate deaths were attributed directly to radiation exposure, the long-term psychological, economic, and health impacts have been significant. Families were uprooted, communities fragmented, and areas remain uninhabitable due to contamination. The disaster reignited global debates about nuclear energy's safety, prompting countries to reevaluate their nuclear programs and fortify disaster response frameworks. Fukushima is a sobering reminder of nature's power and the vulnerabilities inherent in high-stakes energy technology. These disasters are more than tragic headlines. They're profound reminders of human fallibility and resilience. Each event echoes through policy changes, industrial safety advancements, and collective memory, urging us to weigh progress against precaution and ambition against accountability. Follow for more stories that dive deep into history's cautionary tales and their impact on the world today.